in the swirling chaos of the Interstellar Mating Festival, where stars seemed to pulse like hearts in the vast dome of Nebula Station, Sera felt the world tilt on its axis. The air was thick with the scent of exotic blooms from 100 worlds, mingling with the electric hum of alien pheromones that promised bonds forged in eternity. She, a diplomat from the shimmering spires of Zerathia, glided through the crowd in her flowing gown of iridescent silk that hugged her curves like a lover's whisper. Her white hair cascaded like moonlight over her pale skin, and her small, pointed ears twitched at the symphony of laughter and murmurs around her. At 25 cycles old, she was no stranger to these gatherings, but tonight felt different, charged, almost dangerous. The festival was a riot of colors and forms, tentacled beings from Velquar entwining in rhythmic dances, feathered ambassadors from Nethuria cooing sweet nothings, and hulking warriors from Xandor pounding drums that echoed like thunder. Sera lifted the chalice handed to her by a smiling attendant, its golden rim etched with ancient runes of unity. She sipped, expecting the familiar warmth of the bonding elixir, but instead, a sharp bitterness clawed at her throat. Her vision blurred, the lights fracturing into kaleidoscopes of pain. Poison? The thought flashed through her mind like a comet, but it was too late. Her legs buckled, the world spinning as she collapsed backward. Strong arms caught her, firm and unyielding, wrapping around her waist with a gentleness that contradicted their power. She glimpsed a cloaked figure, his face shadowed under a hood, eyes like stormy seas piercing through the haze. "Easy there," his voice rumbled, low and human. "Wait, human." But before she could process it, darkness swallowed her whole. When Sera awoke, it wasn't to the opulent cushions of her Zerathian quarters or the sterile hum of a medical pod. No, she stirred in a bed that felt ordinary. Soft sheets tangled around her legs, a pillow cradling her head with surprising comfort. The air smelled of metal and faint ozone, not the floral essence of home. Blinking against the dim light, she sat up slowly, her heart pounding. This wasn't right. The room was compact, walls lined with flickering screens and scattered tools, a far cry from the grandeur she knew. And there, leaning against the doorframe with arms crossed, was the stranger from the festival. He was human, unmistakably so tall and broad-shouldered, with tousled dark hair and a jawline sharpened by stubble. His eyes, those same stormy ones, watched her with a mix of concern and something deeper, more intense. He wore a worn leather jacket over a simple shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal sinewy forearms marked by faint scars. "You're safe," he said, his voice carrying that same rumble, laced with an accent she couldn't place. "Name's Marcus Hale. Mechanic by trade, but tonight, I guess you could call me your guardian angel." Sera's hand flew to her throat, the memory of the poison surging back. What happened? Where am I?" Her voice trembled, her small ears flattening against her head in alarm. She glanced down, relieved to find her gown intact, though rumpled. Marcus pushed off the wall, stepping closer but keeping a respectful distance. "You were poisoned at the festival. Some bastard slipped something into your drink, part of a bigger plot. I couldn't let that happen, so I got you out. We're on my ship, the Rogue Star, heading away from Nebula Station. Far from Zerathia, but safe from whoever wanted you dead." Her mind raced. Poisoned, a plot? Zerathia was on the brink of alliances, but enemies lurked in the shadows of the galaxy. And this humans were primitives, weren't they? Scattered across their tiny blue planet, barely scratching the stars with their clunky tech. Yet here he was, saving her like some hero from ancient tales. She studied him, noting the way his presence filled the room, not with arrogance, but with a quiet strength that made her pulse quicken unexpectedly. "Why me?" she whispered, swinging her legs over the edge of the bed. The floor was cool under her bare feet, grounding her in this strange reality. Marcus hesitated, then knelt to her level, his gaze locking onto hers. "Because you're key to it all, Sera. The invasion they're planning, your people, the Zerathians, are being manipulated. I couldn't stand by and watch. Humans might be primitive, as you aliens like to call us, but we've got a knack for turning the tide when it matters." Invasion. The word hung heavy, stirring a whirlwind of fear and curiosity in her chest. She reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing his arm. His skin was warm, alive with a vitality that sent a shiver through her. In that moment, amid the hum of the ship and the vast unknown stretching before them, Sera felt the first spark of something forbidden, a connection that defied the stars themselves. As the Rogue Star hurtled through the void, Sera couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just veered into uncharted territory. Marcus moved about the small cabin with easy grace, fetching her a cup of what he called coffee, a bitter, invigorating brew that humans swore by. She sipped it tentatively, watching him over the rim. "Tell me more," she urged, her voice steadier now. "About this plot. About why a human like you would risk everything for a Zerathian diplomat." He sat across from her on a worn stool, elbows on his knees. "It started a few months back. I was fixing up ships on the fringes of the galaxy, picking up odd jobs. Overheard chatter about a coalition, some rogue factions from Xandor and Velquar plotting to use the mating festivals as cover. They'd poison key figures like you, frame it as accidents, then swoop in during the chaos to invade neutral worlds. Zerathia would be first on the list, your tech too valuable to ignore." Sera's eyes widened. Her homeworld's crystal spires held secrets of energy manipulation that could power entire fleets. "But how do you fit into this? Humans aren't even part of the Galactic Accord." A wry smile tugged at his lips. "That's our advantage. We're overlooked. I infiltrated the festival as a cloaked traitor, kept an eye out. When I saw that attendant spike your drink, I acted. Grabbed you before the guards could react, slipped through the crowds. Humans are good at improvising jury-rigging escapes with whatever's at hand." She leaned forward, drawn by his confidence. There was something magnetic about him, a raw humanity that contrasted with the polished elegance of her kind. Her people valued harmony, intricate rituals, but Marcus embodied chaos tempered by purpose. "You could have been killed," she murmured, her hand lingering near his. "Wouldn't be the first time I've danced with death," he replied, his voice dropping lower. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the cabin felt smaller, the air thicker. Sera felt a flush creep up her neck, her pointed ears tingling. Was this the elixir's after effect, or something more? Hours blurred as they talked. Marcus shared stories of Earth's vast oceans, towering mountains, and a species that had clawed its way to the stars through sheer will. "We're not like you aliens with your fancy telepathy or energy fields," he said, gesturing animatedly. "We build, we adapt, we fight with what we've got. Remember the Battle of Sol? A fleet of superior ships came knocking, thinking we'd roll over. But we turned asteroids into weapons, hacked their systems with codes scribbled on napkins. Humanity, fuck yeah, that's our motto." Sera laughed, a sound like chiming crystals. "I've heard whispers of your kind's tenacity, but seeing it, you're more than legends." As the ship hummed onward, evading patrols with Marcus's clever maneuvers, Sera found herself opening up. She spoke of Zerathia's endless skies, the mating ceremonies where bonds were sealed under aurora lights. "Our unions are calculated, alliances for peace," she explained. "But tonight, I was to be paired with a Xandorian lord, political, not passionate." Marcus's expression softened. "Sounds lonely. On Earth, we chase what sets our hearts on fire." Their conversation wove through the night cycle, building a bridge between worlds. Sera marveled at his ingenuity, how he'd modified the ship's engines with scavenged parts to outrun faster vessels. "You're a wizard with machines," she said, tracing a finger over a console. "Just a mechanic," he chuckled, but his eyes lingered on her form, appreciating the way her gown accentuated her graceful figure. The tension simmered, unspoken but palpable. By the time fatigue tugged at her again, Sera realized she trusted this stranger more than she should. As she lay back in the human bed, its simplicity oddly comforting, Marcus dimmed the lights. "Rest," he whispered. "We've got a long road ahead." But sleep didn't come easily. Visions of the festival, mixed with thoughts of Marcus, his strong arms, his defiant spirit. In the quiet of space, Sera wondered if fate had poisoned her chalice not to end her life, but to begin a new one. The next cycle brought urgency. Alarms blared as the rogue star detected pursuers, Xandorian scouts, no doubt. Marcus swore under his breath, diving into the controls. "Hold on, Sera. Time to show you what humans do best." She strapped in beside him, her heart racing. The ship lurched, weaving through an asteroid field with precision that defied logic. Marcus's hands flew over the panels, rerouting power from non-essentials to thrusters. "See that debris? We're using it as cover," he explained, his focus intense. Blasts rocked the hull, but Marcus anticipated each one, rolling the ship like a dancer evading partners. Sera watched in awe as he MacGyvered a decoy from spare parts, a floating hunk of metal emitting false signals. The scouts veered off, chasing shadows. "You did it," she breathed, unstrapping to face him. Adrenaline surged, and without thinking, she closed the distance, her lips brushing his in a grateful kiss. It was brief, electric, tasting of coffee and stars. Marcus pulled back slightly, surprise in his eyes, but a grin spreading. Well, that's one way to say thanks. Embarrassment flushed her cheeks, but she didn't regret it. In that moment, amid the thrill of survival, Sera felt alive in ways Zerathia never offered. Humans weren't primitive, they were vibrant, unbreakable. As they plotted their next move toward a neutral outpost, Sera knew this was just the beginning. The invasion loomed, but with Marcus by her side, hope flickered like a newborn star. Little did she know, the shadows of betrayal ran deeper, and their bond would be tested in fires yet to come. As the rogue star sliced through the inky blackness of space, its engines purring like a contented beast after their narrow escape, Sera found herself unable to tear her gaze from Marcus. He stood at the helm, his fingers dancing over the controls with a precision that spoke of years spent wrestling machines into submission. The dim glow of the navigation screens cast shadows across his face, highlighting the faint lines of determination etched there. She shifted in her seat, the fabric of her gown whispering against her skin, a reminder of how far she was from the polished halls of Zerathia. Yet, in this cramped cockpit, with the stars blurring past like forgotten promises, she felt an unfamiliar heat building within her, a pull that had nothing to do with the ship's artificial gravity. Marcus glanced over, catching her stare. "You okay? That kiss earlier, I didn't mean to startle you." His voice was rough, edged with a hesitation that made him seem more vulnerable, more human. He rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture that drew her eyes to the corded muscles of his arm, the way his shirt clung slightly from the adrenaline-fueled sweat of their evasion. Sera's cheeks warmed, her pale skin flushing a soft pink that she hoped the low light hid. It wasn't unwelcome, she admitted, her words hanging in the air like a challenge. In Zerathia, emotions were veiled behind rituals and decorum, but here, with this outsider, she felt emboldened. Her small, pointed ears twitched slightly, picking up the subtle rhythm of his breathing, faster now. She rose from her seat, moving closer, the sway of the ship bringing her inches from him. The scent of him, earthy, metallic, utterly unlike the sterile perfumes of her world, stirred something primal in her. He turned fully toward her, his stormy eyes darkening as they traced the curve of her neck, the way her white hair spilled over her shoulders like a cascade of starlight. "Sera," he murmured, her name on his lips like a secret invocation. "This isn't how I plan to spend my night, rescuing a diplomat who looks like she stepped out of a dream." His hand lifted, hovering near her face before gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, his thumb brushing the delicate point. The touch sent a shiver racing down her spine, pooling low in her belly. She leaned into it, her body responding before her mind could catch up. "And you," she whispered, her voice breathy, "a human mechanic who fights like a warrior from our ancient epics. Why does that intrigue me so?" Her fingers trailed lightly up his arm, feeling the warmth of his skin, the subtle flecks of muscle beneath. In the festivals of her people, touches were calculated, meant to seal alliances, but this was raw, unscripted. Suspense coiled around them, the knowledge that pursuers could reappear at any moment adding an edge to the intimacy. Marcus's breath hitched, his hand sliding to her waist, pulling her gently against him. The contact was electric, her gown form pressing into the solid wall of his chest. "Because humans don't play by the rules," he said, his lips curving into a half-smile that promised mischief. "We take what we want, adapt to whatever the universe throws at us." His other hand cupped her cheek, tilting her face up to his. For a suspended moment, the galaxy outside faded, the alarms silent, the stars mere backdrop to the tension thrumming between them. Their lips met again, this time not in gratitude but in hunger. Sera gasped softly as his mouth claimed hers, firm yet exploratory, tasting of adventure and defiance. Her hands roamed up his back, fingers digging into the fabric of his shirt, feeling the heat radiating from him. He deepened the kiss, his tongue teasing hers in a dance that mirrored the ship's evasive maneuvers, bold, unpredictable. She melted against him, her body awakening to sensations she'd only read about in forbidden Zerathian scrolls, the rush of desire, the ache of wanting more. But even as passion ignited, a shadow of doubt crept in. The ship's console beeped softly, a proximity alert pulling Marcus away with a reluctant groan. "Damn it," he muttered, his forehead resting against hers for a beat, breaths mingling. We're approaching the outpost, but sensors are picking up unusual traffic. Could be nothing or our friends from the festival catching up. Sera's heart pounded, not just from the kiss but from the thrill of uncertainty. She straightened her gown, the silk now feeling too confining against her sensitized skin. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the flush still coloring her cheeks. Marcus's eyes lingered on her lips, swollen from their embrace, before he forced himself back to the controls. "We dock carefully. The outpost is neutral ground, smugglers, traitors, a mix of species. I have contacts there who can help us get word back to Zerathia without tipping off the plotters." He plotted a stealthy approach, his focus sharpening, but the air between them remained charged, every glance a promise of continuation. As they neared the sprawling structure of Outpost Gamma, a ramshackle hub orbiting a gas giant, its arms extending like metallic tentacles, Sera watched the docking bays come into view. Lights flickered from 100 ports, vessels of all shapes clinging like insects. But amid the bustle, she spotted sleek Xandorian cruisers, their hulls gleaming with predatory intent. "Marcus," she whispered urgently, pointing. "Those ships there from the coalition you mentioned." He cursed under his breath, adjusting their trajectory to slip into a shadowed berth. "Stay close," he said, his hand brushing hers in a reassuring squeeze that sent another spark through her. "We'll blend in. Humans are good at that, turning invisible when needed." They disembarked into the crowded corridors of the outpost, a cacophony of alien tongues and mechanical whirs assaulting their senses. Sera pulled her hood up, her elegant gown drawing a few curious glances, but Marcus guided her with a protective arm around her waist, his touch lingering longer than necessary. The contact kept the erotic undercurrent alive, a secret thrill amid the danger. Vendors hawked glowing trinkets, holographic ads promising forbidden pleasures, and in the dim alleys, shadows moved with suspicious grace. They ducked into a dimly lit cantina, the air thick with smoke from exotic herbs. Marcus nodded to a burly alien behind the bar, a tentacled being from Velquar who owed him a favor. "We need a secure line to Zerathia," he said lowly, sliding a credit chip across the counter. The bartender's eyes or what passed for them narrowed. "Trouble follows you, Hale. Word is, there's a bounty on a white-haired diplomat. Big one." Sera tensed, her body pressing closer to Marcus's side. His arm tightened around her, fingers splaying possessively over her hip. "Then make it quick," he replied, his voice a growl that sent a shiver through her, not of fear, but of something deeper, more intoxicating. As they waited in a shadowed booth, the suspense built like a storm. Sera's mind raced. Who had betrayed her? Was it the Xandorian lord she was meant to mate with, or someone closer in Zerathia's court? Marcus's presence grounded her, his thigh brushing hers under the table, a subtle reminder of their earlier intimacy. She turned to him, her voice a whisper. "If we get through this, what then? You and I were from different worlds." His eyes met hers, intense and unwavering. "Worlds collide all the time in this galaxy. And humans, we make it work." He leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. "I'd cross 1,000 stars for another taste of you." The words ignited a fire in her core, her imagination wandering to what might happen in the privacy of the ship later. But before she could respond, the bartender returned with an encrypted communicator. "Lines open, but hurry. Patrols are sniffing around." Marcus activated it, Sera leaning in to speak her coded message to her superior's warnings of the poison, the plot, the invasion brewing. As the transmission hummed, a commotion erupted outside, shouts, "The whine of energy weapons charging." "They're here," Marcus hissed, grabbing her hand. They bolted from the booth, weaving through the crowd as Xandorian enforcers burst in, their armored forms cutting through the patrons like blades. Laser fire scorched the air, but Marcus yanked her into a side passage, his body shielding hers. "Run!" he urged, his free hand pulling a makeshift blaster from his jacket, jury rigged from scrap, a testament to human ingenuity. Heart thundering, Sera followed, the erotic tension of moments ago transforming into a pulse-pounding chase. They dashed through maintenance tunnels, Marcus blasting a lock to seal a door behind them. Almost to the ship, he panted, pausing in an alcove to catch their breath. In that brief respite, pressed against the cold metal wall, Sera looked up at him. Sweat glistened on his brow, his chest heaving. Unable to resist, she pulled him down for a fierce kiss, her hands fisting in his shirt. It was desperate, fueled by the adrenaline, her body arching into his as if to memorize every contour. He responded with equal fervor, his hands roaming her back, tracing the curve of her spine through the silk. But the sound of pursuing footsteps shattered the moment. Later he promised, his voice husky with restraint. "We survive this first." They sprinted onward, the outpost's labyrinthine paths their only ally. Sera's mind whirled with a mix of fear and exhilaration. This human had upended her life, awakening desires she never knew existed. As they neared the docking bay, the rogue star waiting like a faithful steed, she realized the true suspense lay not just in the chase, but in what awaited them beyond, a bond that could redefine alliances, or shatter them entirely. The enforcers closed in, their boots echoing like doom. Marcus fired over his shoulder, a improvised EMP burst from his gadget, stunning two pursuers. "Humans don't quit," he grinned through gritted teeth, pulling her aboard. As the ship detached and rocketed away, evading a hail of fire with maneuvers that defied physics, Sera collapsed into her seat, breathless. The erotic spark between them simmered, unspoken but alive, promising more in the quiet hours ahead. But the galaxy was vast, and shadows longer still. Whatever came next would test them in ways neither could foresee. As the rogue star pierced deeper into the nebula's swirling mists, cloaking them in a veil of ionized gas that jammed enemy sensors, Sera clung to the armrests of her seat, her body still humming from the stolen kisses and near misses of the outpost. Marcus's hands gripped the controls with white-knuckled intensity, his jaw set as he coaxed every ounce of speed from the battered engines. "We've shaken them for now," he said, his voice a low rumble that cut through the ship's ambient hum, "but they're persistent. Like shadows that won't let go." He shot her a sidelong glance, his eyes flickering with that same mix of protectiveness and desire that had ignited between them in the tunnels, a flame not yet extinguished, but banked by the urgency of survival. Sera nodded, her white hair disheveled from the chase, framing her face like a halo of starfire. She could feel the pull of him, magnetic and undeniable, but the weight of her message to Zerathia pressed heavier. Had it reached her council? Or had the transmission been intercepted, twisting their fragile alliance into a noose? Curiosity gnawed at her, mingling with the thrill of this forbidden dance across the stars. "Marcus, what if my people think I've been captured? Or worse, that I'm a traitor for fleeing with a human?" The words tumbled out, laced with the dramatic undertow of her diplomatic training, where every whisper could topple empires. He reached over, his fingers intertwining with hers in a gesture that sent warmth surging through her veins, grounding her amid the cosmic storm. "Then we prove them wrong. Humans have a saying, actions speak louder than words. We'll expose the plot, save your world, and maybe show the galaxy that primitives like us can rewrite the rules." His touch lingered, a promise of more intimate revelations, but the ship's alarms shattered the moment with a piercing wail. Red lights flashed across the console, and Marcus's expression hardened into one of grim resolve. Incoming 3 Xandorian interceptors, closing fast. They must have jumped ahead through a wormhole shortcut. The thrill escalated in an instant, Sera's heart slamming against her ribs like a war drum. The viewscreen erupted with the sight of sleek, predatory ships slicing through the nebula, their energy cannons charging with ominous glows. "Can we outrun them?" she asked, her voice steady but edged with the curiosity of someone peering over a precipice. "Not this time," Marcus replied, his tone dramatic, infused with the raw defiance that defined his species. "But we can outsmart them." With a flick of his wrist, he diverted power to the auxiliary systems, jury-rigging a cascade of false echoes from the ship's emitters' ghost signals that multiplied their signature into a dozen phantom vessels. The interceptors hesitated, their formation fracturing as they pursued illusions. But one broke through, locking weapons on the rogue star's hull. A blast grazed their shields, rocking the ship violently and sending sparks flying from an overhead panel. Sera cried out, thrown against her harness, but Marcus was already countering. "Hold on," he shouted, spinning the ship into a barrel roll that defied inertial dampeners. The G-forces pressed her back, heightening the drama as stars whirled in a dizzying ballet. In that heart-stopping moment, curiosity bloomed into surprise. How could this human, with his makeshift tech and unyielding grit, challenge vessels built by ancient empires? She watched him, transfixed, as he patched a hull breach with a sealant foam he'd improvised from cargo hold scraps, his muscles straining under his shirt, sweat beading on his brow. The lead interceptor closed in, its comms crackling open with a guttural voice that echoed through the cockpit. "Surrender the diplomat, human scum, or be vaporized. The coalition demands her for the mating right. Her bloodline will seal our conquest." The words dripped with malice, revealing a layer of the plot that sent a chill down Sera's spine. Not just invasion, but a twisted perversion of her world's sacred bonds, forcing her into a union that would legitimize their tyranny. Marcus's laugh was a surprising bark of defiance, thrilling in its audacity. "Come and get her, you oversized tin cans. Humanity doesn't bow to bullies." He slammed a lever, unleashing a hidden weapon, a electromagnetic pulse mine he'd cobbled from salvaged parts during their earlier evasion. It detonated in a brilliant flash, disabling the interceptor's shields and sending it tumbling into the nebula's depths. The other two vessels veered off, damaged and disoriented, but not before firing a parting shot that pierced the rogue star's engines. Alarms blared louder, smoke filling the air as the ship lurched, power flickering. "We're hit bad," Marcus growled, unstrapping to rush toward the engineering bay. Sera followed, her gown tearing at the hem as she navigated the tilting corridors, curiosity driving her forward despite the fear. What secrets did this human hold? In the bay, amid sparking conduits and hissing steam, he knelt before a ruptured core, tools flying from his belt. "Help me," he urged, handing her a wrench. "Twist that valve, seal the coolant line." Their hands brushed in the chaos, electric even now as they worked in tandem. Sera's alien grace complemented his brute ingenuity. Together, they stabilized the core just as the ship groaned in protest. But the climax surged when a hidden panel beeped an incoming transmission, encrypted and urgent. Marcus patched it through, and a holographic figure materialized, a Zerathian elder, her mentor from the council, but his eyes held a surprising coldness. "Sera, you've been deceived," the elder intoned dramatically, his voice trembling with feigned concern. "The human is the poisoner. He's an agent of the coalition, using you to infiltrate our defenses. Return immediately, or face exile." The words hung like a thunderclap, thrilling and curious in their betrayal. Sera's eyes widened, turning to Marcus with a mix of shock and doubt. "Is it true?" she demanded, her voice rising in dramatic crescendo, the air thick with suspense. But his face pale, resolute, told a different story. "No," he whispered, pulling a data chip from his pocket. "Watch this." He slotted it in, and the hologram shifted to intercepted footage, the elder himself, conspiring with Xandorian lords, plotting her assassination to cover his tracks. The surprise hit like a supernova. Her own mentor, the architect of the invasion, using the mating festival as a smokescreen. "He framed me," Marcus explained, his tone thrilling with vindication. "I stole this from their database during the festival. That's why I saved you, to expose him." Sera's world shattered and reformed in that instant, curiosity giving way to a fierce alliance. As the ship stabilized, drifting toward a hidden asteroid base where allies awaited, she stepped closer, her hand on his chest. "Then we end this together," she declared, the drama peaking in their shared gaze. But the interceptors regrouped on the sensors, closing for the kill, turning their triumph into a razor-edge thriller. With engines sputtering and truths unveiled, the true battle loomed, a clash that would test their bond and humanity's indomitable spirit against the galaxy's darkest schemes. As the rogue star limped toward the jagged silhouette of the asteroid base, its engines coughing like an old smoker after a marathon, Sera gripped the console's edge, her mind reeling from the elder's holographic betrayal. The air in the cockpit thickened with unspoken accusations and revelations, the ship's flickering lights casting dramatic shadows that danced across Marcus's face like accusing fingers. "We can't trust anyone now," she said, her voice quivering with the weight of it all, the drama escalating as the base loomed larger, a hollowed-out rock fortress teeming with rebel contacts. Marcus swore by. But doubt lingered, a curious thread pulling at her thoughts. If her mentor could deceive her, who else might be lurking in the shadows of this human's past? Marcus cut the thrusters, guiding them into a concealed docking cradle with the finesse of a thief slipping into a vault. "My allies here are solid smugglers, ex-military, folks who've seen the coalition's ugly side up close," he assured her, but his eyes darted to the sensors, where blips of potential threats ghosted at the nebula's edge. The ship shuddered to a halt, and as the airlock hissed open, Sera stepped out beside him into the base's cavernous bay, the air stale with the scent of recycled oxygen and machine oil. Drama hung heavy, This was no Zerathian palace, but a gritty hive of outcasts, where holographic wanted posters flickered on walls and alien species bartered secrets in hushed tones. They navigated the bustling corridors, Marcus's arm brushing hers in a protective gesture that sent awkward sparks through her, reminders of their heated moments amid chaos. But the tension heightened when a burly, four-armed mechanic from Orvian lumbered toward them, his multiple eyes widening in recognition. "Hail, you son of a comet, what trouble you dragging in now?" The alien boomed, clapping Marcus on the back with enough force to make him stumble. Sera tensed, her pointed ears perking up, but Marcus laughed it off, introducing her with a flourish. "Meet Sera, diplomat extraordinaire. Sera, this is Gronk, best fixer in the quadrant, worst cook you've ever met." Gronk's gaze shifted to her, his arms waving dramatically as he appraised her elegant gown, now torn and smudged from their escapades. "A Zerathian? Hail, you always pick the fancy ones. Last time it was that Nithurian dancer, remember how she tried to bond with you mid-heist? Ended up with tentacles everywhere." He guffawed, a deep, rumbling sound that echoed off the metal walls, and Sera felt her cheeks burn, an awkward flush creeping up her pale skin. Was this humor at her expense? Marcus shot Gronk a warning look, but the damage was done. The image of Marcus entangled in some exotic liaison made her stomach twist with unexpected jealousy, heightening the emotional drama swirling inside her. "Enough reminiscing," Marcus interjected, steering the conversation with a forced grin, though his hand found hers in a quick, reassuring squeeze that only amplified the awkwardness. "We need repairs fast, and a secure uplink to broadcast that data chip." The Elder's confession could rally half the neutral worlds against the coalition. Gronk nodded, leading them to a cluttered workshop, where tools levitated in anti-grav fields, and half-assembled drones buzzed like annoyed insects. But as they settled in, the drama intensified. A sudden klaxon blared, red lights pulsing like a frantic heartbeat. "Intruder alert," a voice crackled over the intercom. "Coalition scouts breaching the perimeter." Sera's heart leaped into her throat, the thrill of pursuit morphing into high-stakes pandemonium. Marcus swore colorfully human expletives she'd never heard, adding a touch of unintended humor as he grabbed a welding torch that doubled as a weapon. "Gronk, seal the bays." "Sera, stay behind me." But she wasn't one to cower, drawing on her diplomatic training, which included basic energy manipulation from Zerathian lore. She channeled a faint shield around them, her hands glowing with ethereal light. "I'm not helpless," she shot back, though the awkward tremble in her voice betrayed her nerves. The base erupted into chaos, rebels scrambling, laser fire zipping through corridors like angry fireflies. Marcus led the charge, jury-rigging a turret from scrap metal and a power cell, his human adaptability shining through as he barked orders with charismatic authority. "Aim for their vents, overheat 'em," he yelled to a squad of mismatched fighters. Sera followed, her gown hitching awkwardly as she ducked behind crates, the silk snagging on rough edges in a comically undignified way. "This outfit wasn't made for battle," she muttered, eliciting a chuckle from Marcus mid-firefight. "Yeah, well, it looks great on you. Distracts the enemy?" His wink was pure humor, lightening the drama just enough to keep her grounded, even as a blast singed the air inches from her ear. They pushed forward to the command center, where the true awkwardness unfolded amid the fray. They burst in to find a holographic map projecting coalition movements, but guarding it was a sleek android enforcer, cold, calculating, its eyes locking onto Sera with mechanical precision. "Target acquired, Zerathian asset. Surrender for reprogramming," it droned, advancing with whirring limbs. Marcus lunged, tackling it in a tangle of wires and fists, but the android's grip latched onto his jacket, ripping it open to reveal a hidden tattoo, a swirling galaxy mark that glowed faintly. Sera froze, curiosity spiking dramatically. What was that? A human relic, or something more? In the scuffle, Marcus improvised hilariously, yanking a loose cable and electrocuting the android with a shower of sparks that made it jitter like a malfunctioning dancer. "Take that, you tin-plated buzzkill," he quipped, collapsing against the console with a groan. But the drama peaked as Sera knelt beside him, her fingers tracing the tattoo accidentally in her concern, its warmth pulsing under her touch, sending an awkward shiver through both of them. "What is this?" she whispered, the intimate moment clashing with the blaring alarms. He hesitated, his breath ragged, humor fading into vulnerability. "Old Earth ink, symbol of a lost colony. Reminds me why I fight for the underdogs, the overlooked. Their eyes met, the air charged with unspoken emotions, but Gronk burst in then, arms flailing. You two lovebirds done? We got more incoming. The term lovebirds hung awkwardly, heightening the romantic tension with a dash of embarrassment, as Sera helped Marcus up, their hands lingering longer than necessary. With the base's defenses rallying rebels using Marcus's quick fixes to repel the scouts, the group secured the uplink. Sera broadcast the Elder's confession, her voice steady amid the storm, watching as Allied signals lit up the map like fireworks. But as the invaders retreated, licking their wounds, an unexpected transmission crackled through. A coalition warlord's face appeared, sneering. You think this ends here, human? The mating rite will proceed with, or without her. We've got contingencies. The screen faded, leaving a pall of heightened drama, the awkward realization dawning that their bond had just painted bigger targets on their backs. Marcus turned to her, wiping sweat from his brow with a lopsided grin that mixed humor and resolve. Well, that was fun. Next time let's pick a vacation spot without the fireworks. Sera couldn't help but laugh, the sound bubbling up despite the chaos, drawing her closer to this enigmatic human. As repairs hummed around them and plans formed for the counterstrike, she realized the true awkwardness lay in her growing feelings, defying cultures, igniting revolutions, all while navigating the humorous pitfalls of interstellar romance. But with the coalition's shadow lengthening, the drama was far from over, promising more twists in their star-crossed path. As repairs hummed around them in the asteroid base's workshop, the rhythmic clank of tools and the low murmur of rebels plotting their next move created a cocoon of temporary safety, allowing Sera's mind to wander back to the spark between her and Marcus. The coalition's threat lingered like a dark cloud, but in this brief lull, her growing feelings surged to the forefront, warm and insistent, defying the cold vastness of space. She watched him from across the room, where he bent over a console with Gronk, his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing the play of muscles as he fine-tuned a communication array. The tattoo on his chest peeked out, a symbol of his resilient heritage, and she felt a pull toward him that was as undeniable as gravity. Marcus caught her eye, his lopsided grin returning, cutting through the tension with that human humor that had lightened even their darkest moments. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag as he approached, his voice dropping to an intimate timbre that made her pointed ears tingle. The awkwardness from Gronk's earlier teasing faded, replaced by a deeper connection forged in the fires of their shared battles. Sera stepped closer, the silk of her gown brushing against his leg, sending a subtle thrill through her. "Just wondering how a simple mechanic became the center of my universe," she replied softly, her pale skin flushing with warmth. The base's dim lighting cast a soft glow, turning the utilitarian space into something almost romantic, far removed from the calculated ceremonies of Zerathia. Here, emotions flowed freely, unscripted and real. He reached out, his fingers gently tracing her arm, the touch igniting a cascade of sensations that made her breath catch. "You've upended my world too, Sera. In the best way." Their eyes locked, the air between them charged with unspoken desires that had been building since that first kiss amid the chaos. With the rebels distracted by their tasks and the immediate dangers at bay, Marcus took her hand, leading her to a quieter alcove, tucked behind stacks of crates, a makeshift haven in the midst of rebellion. As they settled against the cool metal wall, the drama of the galaxy seemed to pause, giving way to the personal storm brewing between them. Sera's heart raced as he pulled her close, his arms enveloping her in an embrace that felt both protective and passionate. Their lips met in a slow, deepening kiss, exploring the boundaries they'd danced around for so long. His hands wandered gently over her back, tracing the curves hidden beneath her gown, while she pressed against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart matching her own. The moment unfolded with a tenderness that blended their worlds, her graceful, ethereal nature intertwining with his earthy strength. Whispers of affection filled the air, promises of trust and longing exchanged in hushed tones. Sera's fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him nearer as waves of warmth spread through her, awakening feelings she'd never fully explored in the rigid structures of her society. Marcus responded with equal fervor, his touch reverent, making her feel cherished in ways that transcended species or stars. Time blurred as they lost themselves in each other, the intimacy a balm against the uncertainties ahead. It was a connection born of survival and sparked by genuine affection, where bodies and souls aligned in a dance as old as the cosmos. In those stolen hours, they discovered a harmony that strengthened their resolve, turning vulnerability into unbreakable unity. As they emerged from the alcove later, disheveled but glowing with renewed energy, Gronk raised an eyebrow from across the room, but wisely said nothing, his multiple arms busy with repairs. Sera smoothed her gown, a secret smile playing on her lips, while Marcus cleared his throat, diving back into the plans with a focused intensity. The coalition's shadow still loomed, but now, fortified by their bond, they were ready to face whatever twists awaited, their alliance deeper and more resilient than before. As the plans unfolded in the asteroid base's command center, with holographic maps projecting potential strike points against the coalition's hidden outposts, Sera felt a surge of optimism weaving through her veins like the afterglow of their intimate escape. Marcus stood at the forefront, his voice commanding yet laced with that familiar humor as he outlined strategies to Gronk and the ragtag team of rebels' diversions using decoy drones, strikes on supply lines jury-rigged from salvaged tech. "We'll hit them where it hurts," he declared, his eyes meeting hers across the room, sparking a private warmth that made her secret smile deepen. Fortified by their connection, she joined in, her diplomatic insight blending seamlessly with his tactical grit, turning what could have been a desperate gambit into a blueprint for victory. But as the group dispersed to prep for launch, a subtle anomaly flickered on the data chips, extended files, something Marcus had overlooked in the initial decryption. Sera, ever the meticulous one, lingered at the console, her fingers dancing over the interface with the elegance of her Zerathian heritage. "Wait," she murmured to herself, zooming in on an encrypted subroutine buried deep within the Elder's confession logs. Curiosity tugged at her, the same pull that had drawn her to Marcus, and with a few deft commands, she unlocked it. What emerged wasn't just another layer of betrayal. It was a revelation that shattered the fragile peace they'd built. The hologram sputtered to life, projecting not the expected coalition schematics, but a grainy recording from years past a clandestine meeting on a neutral moon base. There, amid shadowed figures, stood her mentor, negotiating not with Xandorian lords as they'd assumed, but with a human delegation. And at the center of it all was a younger Marcus, his face unmarked by the scars she now knew so well, shaking hands with the Elder. "The alliance must hold," the recorded Marcus said, his voice eerily familiar yet colder. "Humanity provides the tech, Zerathia the facade. The invasion isn't against us, it's through us. We'll topple the old empires together, brother." Sera's breath caught, her world tilting as the pieces realigned in a dizzying twist. Marcus wasn't the outsider hero she'd romanticized. He was embedded in the plot from the start, a human operative planted to manipulate events from within. The poisoning? Not a rescue, but a calculated extraction to position her as a pawn in a grander human scheme, one where humanity's primitive facade hid an advanced network of spies and tech, orchestrating the coalition's moves to provoke a galaxy-wide uprising. HFY indeed, but twisted humans weren't just adapting, they were the puppeteers, using alien divisions to claim dominance under the guise of salvation. Heart-pounding, she spun toward him, but Marcus was already there, his expression shifting from confidence to a resigned knowing. "Sera, I can explain," he started, but the words faltered as the hologram looped, exposing his dual role. The base's alarms remained silent, the rebels oblivious, but in that moment, the intimacy they'd shared felt like a weapon turned against her. Was their bond real, or just another jury-rigged tool in humanity's arsenal? The surprise cut deep, a powerful pivot that reframed every touch, every escape, leaving her grappling with betrayal, even as the coalition's forces massed unseen, drawing the noose tighter around them both. The coalition's forces massed unseen, their shadows creeping closer through the asteroid field's sensor ghosts, but in the charged silence of the command center, Sera's world narrowed to the man before her, the one whose touches now felt like calculated deceptions. Her hand trembled as she backed away, the hologram's accusing glow illuminating the tattoo on his chest, a mark she'd traced in moments of passion that suddenly seemed scripted. "Explain?" she echoed, her voice cracking with dramatic fury, the betrayal slicing through her like a plasma blade. "You've been playing me from the start, Marcus, or whatever your real name is. Was any of it real? The rescues, the kisses, or just human tricks to ensnare an alien fool? Marcus's face crumpled, not with denial, but with a raw vulnerability that heightened the emotional storm raging between them. He reached out, but she flinched, creating an awkward chasm in the cramped space where rebels bustled obliviously nearby, their chatter a dissonant backdrop to her unraveling heart. It started that way, he admitted, his words tumbling out in a rush, laced with the desperation of a man clinging to a fracturing ledge. Years ago, Earth Command saw the galaxy's fractures empires crumbling under their own weight. They recruited me to infiltrate, to forge alliances that would position humanity as the saviors. The Elder was our inside man, but he went rogue, twisting the plan into outright conquest. When I realized he meant to kill you to cover his tracks, I couldn't let it happen. Sera, you're not a pawn to me anymore, you're everything. The confession hung heavy, drama escalating as Gronk lumbered in at that precise moment, his forearms juggling a crate of munitions, oblivious to the tension. Hey team. Engines are patched, we can jump in 5. But Hale, your ship's AI is throwing tantrums again, demanding emotional recalibration, or some nonsense. Humans and their moody tech, am I right? He chuckled deeply, setting the crate down with a thud that jolted them both, amplifying the awkwardness as Sera's cheeks burned. Here she was, confronting a potential traitor while an alien mechanic cracked jokes about their supposed romance. Marcus shot Gronk a glare that could melt hull plating, but the humor undercut the intensity just enough to keep her from bolting. Not now, Gronk, he muttered, turning back to her with pleading eyes. I broke protocol to save you, stole that chip to expose him. If Earth finds out I went off script, I'm done, exiled or worse. But I'd do it again for you. His voice dropped, intimate despite the chaos, heightening the drama as alarms suddenly wailed. Coalition breach detected, scouts probing the base's defenses like insistent fingers. Sera's mind whirled, torn between fury and the lingering pull of their bond. Awkwardness peaked as she realized her gown, still torn from earlier skirmishes, left her feeling exposed in more ways than one. How do I trust you now? She demanded, stepping closer despite herself, their faces inches apart in a standoff that crackled with unresolved passion. Rebels shouted orders around them, laser fire echoing from distant corridors, but in this bubble, it was just them, her pointed ears flattening in distress, his stormy eyes begging for redemption. Gronk, sensing the vibe at last, scratched one of his heads awkwardly. Should I leave, or grab popcorn? Humans do that for drama, yeah? His attempt at levity fell flat, but it broke the spell enough for Marcus to grab her hand, pulling her toward the escape pods as the base shook from impacts. Trust my actions, then, he urged, jury-rigging a door panel with frantic efficiency. We're getting out together. The Elder's fleet is inbound. If we don't warn the true Zerathian Council, everything falls. They dashed through quaking tunnels, drama mounting with each explosion that lit the walls in fiery bursts. Awkward dodges around falling debris, forcing them into close quarters, her body brushing his in ways that stirred unwanted memories. This isn't over, she hissed, even as she matched his stride, humor sneaking in when a loose conduit sparked, singeing his hair. Great, now you smell like burnt toast, she quipped despite herself, a reluctant laugh escaping amid the peril. Reaching the rogue star, they blasted off into the fray, evading enemy fire with maneuvers that tested every ounce of his skill. Sera strapped in, her heart a battlefield of doubt and desire, as Marcus broadcast the full data chip exposing not just the Elder, but Earth's hidden hand, risking his own people's wrath. The galaxy teetered on the brink, their alliance fracturing and reforming in the heat of battle, with awkward truths and humorous mishaps weaving through the high-stakes chase. But as Allied signals finally responded, flickering hope amid the stars, Sera wondered if forgiveness could bridge the void, or if this twist had doomed them to a tragic orbit. As Allied signals flickered hope amid the stars, their responses pouring in like a cascade of digital lifelines, Zerathian fleets mobilizing, neutral worlds pledging support. Sera stared out the rogue star's viewport, the nebula's swirling colors a mesmerizing blur that mirrored the turmoil in her heart. Forgiveness wasn't a switch she could flip. It was a bridge built plank by plank, and Marcus's revelations had left gaps wide enough to swallow starships. Yet, as the ship hurtled toward the rendezvous point, a hidden Zerathian outpost where true loyalists awaited, She couldn't ignore the way his presence anchored her amid the chaos. "If we're going to make this work," she said finally, turning to him with a resolve that steadied her voice, "no more secrets. Humanity's grit might save the day, but trust is what will save us." Marcus nodded, his hands steady on the controls despite the ship's protesting groans from battle damage. "No more shadows," he promised, his tone carrying the weight of a vow forged in the fires of betrayal. The awkwardness from their confrontation lingered like residual static, but it was tempered now by the urgency of survival coalition warships closing in, their sensors piercing the nebula's veil with relentless precision. Alarms chirped softly, a reminder that their broadcast had ignited a galactic firestorm, drawing enemies like moths to a flame. "Incoming Elder's flagship leading the charge," he announced, pulling up tactical displays that showed an armada of sleek vessels, their weapons arrays glowing with malevolent intent. The drama of the moment enveloped them, Sera's diplomatic instincts kicking in as she interfaced with the comms, rallying the incoming allies with eloquent pleas that wove Zerathian poetry into calls for unity. "The stars bear witness to treachery," she transmitted, her words echoing across frequencies, "but together, we reclaim the light." Marcus glanced at her, admiration softening his features amid the tension, a human mechanic and an alien diplomat, bridging worlds in ways neither could have foreseen. Humor surfaced, unexpectedly when the ship's AI, glitchy from repairs, interjected with a cheerful ping, romantic tension detected. "Suggest mood lighting?" They both chuckled, the sound a brief oasis in the storm, easing the awkward undercurrents as they prepared for the clash. The battle unfolded like a symphony of destruction, the rogue star darting through the fray with Marcus's improvised maneuvers turning the tide. Coalition ships fired in coordinated volleys, but humanity's edge shone through. Marcus deployed a network of hacked drones, scavenged from the asteroid base, that disrupted enemy shields with EMP bursts cobbled from spare parts. "See that?" he shouted over the roar of impacts, jury-rigged miracles FI at its finest. Sera contributed her own flair, channeling Zerathian energy fields to deflect incoming missiles, her small ears twitching with focus as she synced her abilities with his tech. Allies arrived in waves, Zerathian crystal cruisers unleashing harmonic waves that shattered hulls, neutral freighters repurposed as battering rams, all inspired by the exposed truths. At the heart of it, the Elder's flagship loomed, a behemoth of twisted ambition. "He's hailing us," Sera noted, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. The hologram flickered on, her former mentor's face twisted in rage. "You fools," he snarled, "humanity's meddling ends here. Sera, return to your place or perish with this primitive." The words stung, heightening the emotional stakes, but Marcus squeezed her hand, a silent anchor. "Primitive, watch this," he retorted, unleashing a final gambit, a virus uploaded via the data chip, burrowing into the flagship systems and causing cascading failures. Engines sputtered, weapons offline, the vessel adrift as Allied fire converged. In the ensuing chaos, Sera boarded a shuttle with a strike team, confronting the Elder in his command bridge, a dramatic face-off amidst sparking consoles and fleeing crew. "Why?" she demanded, her gown billowing like a banner of defiance. He sneered, "Power, child. Humans offered it, but I took more." But as guards subdued him, the truth unraveled further. Earth's involvement had been a double-edged sword, a risky play to elevate humanity, but Marcus's defection had exposed the rot. Back on the Rogue Star, as the coalition fleet scattered in defeat, Sera turned to him, the awkward silences of doubt giving way to tentative understanding. "You chose me over your mission," she whispered, stepping into his arms. The galaxy shifted in the aftermath, with treaties forged under new light. Zerathia and Earth forming genuine alliances, humanity's ingenuity celebrated rather than hidden. Marcus, exonerated by his actions, traded his spy shadows for a life among the stars, with Sera by his side. They wandered neutral worlds, her elegance complementing his grit, sharing stories that inspired ballads across species. In quiet moments aboard their upgraded ship, they'd laugh about the festival's fateful chalice, the awkward chases, and the twists that bound them. Who knew poison could lead to paradise? He'd quip, pulling her close under starlit viewports. Years later, as ambassadors of a united front, they stood on Zerathia's spires, watching auroras dance. Sera's hand rested on her swelling belly, a child of two worlds, symbol of hope. "Our story's just beginning," Marcus murmured, his eyes stormy with love. And in that good ending, where forgiveness bridged voids and humanity's spirit illuminated the cosmos, they proved that even in the vast unknown, love and resilience could conquer all.